Rank is officially back and it's gonna be here this week. So what I want to do is go over the decks that have been dominating in the tournament and basically a good pool of what you're going to expect to see in the metagame developing in this ranked season. So, one thing I want to bring up is the usage of decks. So one of the decks I want to mention is Mega Altaria. So you're going to see Mega Altaria EX everywhere because right now, quite frankly, it has the highest win rate. So that being said, seeing that it's seeing so many tournament success, you're going to be seeing this everywhere in the ladder. And definitely the Indeedee version with, Jirachi, and just like other variants. But right now I do think the Indeedee and Mega Altaria version is pretty strong. The second most common deck that you're probably going to be seeing on the ladder is Mega Blazakin and Heatmore. So this deck overall is quick because all rare candy decks, right? If you have the rare candy early game, you're pretty much winning the game and you could outpace the game like however you like. But Heatmore is really good because you could target a bunch of the back row, a bunch of the Oricorios, and then the deck is utilizing Cyrus now. And just overall, Mega Blazakin with the Rocky helmet overall is a strong pick. And that deck has been performing well in tournaments as well. And then the third most that you'll probably be seeing is Hydreon and Mega Absol EX. This combination is super strong. I will say it's even stronger than the Mega Absol Darkrai variant, but like overall Hydreon is really good into the meta because you're dealing 130 damage and Absol's ripping cards from your hand, and not to mention that you have insane HP, so that's really good. So honorable mentions that you'll probably be seeing is Suicune EX, Greninja EX. Greninja and Mega Absol is going to be popular as well. We have Magnazone, Oricorio, and then Mega Absol, Darkrai, and then we have decks like Decidui. Decidui is just overall strong. But I do want to go over a few decks that I've seen pop up, so it's gonna be like a weekly meta update. We're gonna go with this deck right here, Espeon EX. Just got second place. Shout out to Momo. Definitely a strong deck because like Indeedee, just overall you're giving 20 HP to Espeon, and if you have another Espeon in the back, another Espeon EX, you're healing 30, so that's like 50 a turn. And not to mention 80, so that's just overall insane. Just like having that setup, and then you can have Giratina just like building up in the background, so you could start hitting for 130 and then healing him with the making his like 20 damage like not really effective. But like overall, this deck is really solid, and you play the regular Espeon. Regular Espeon is to deal with all of the Oricorios, and basically it's all the energy on your opponent's side of the field, so it works way better than Smoochum. And basically Copycat is being utilized, double Cyrus, because Espeon's only hitting for 80. It's just chip damage 80, and then your opponent's gonna retreat. So you want to see as many Cyruses as you want, so you can pull in their Mega EX Pokemon, so you could win the game in one shot potentially. Guzma is a really good call because there's a lot of Giant Capes, there's a lot of Rocky helmets, and just overall really strong. Dawn is pretty good because you could just give energy to Giratina, or the energy from Giratina to Espeon. It really just depends on how the matchup is going and how you started. And then red card is really good because it gives you that whole like ability to get rid of your opponent's hand. And a lot of decks are trying to be super consistent with the Hydreon and Blazakin and the Decidui, so you could really punish them with hand disruption. Mars is also good, but at the same time it's an item card, and item cards are free basically. The next variant I want to talk about, this deck right here has won one of the tournaments in this weekend, and Chingling overall is super strong, limiting your opponents from using item cards, and then, you know, using cards as Jirachi to attack the back row, this regular Altaria to, you know, handle all of the Oricorios, and then play 2 of the regular Mega Altaria EX because this is your main win condition, and then you got Swablu. Then you're playing double Cyrus, double Rocky Helmet in this build, which is really interesting instead of going over the cape. And then you got the Lycias, so you could search out your Chinglings and Swablu. Lycia is so amazing in this deck because everything's like 50 HP. And, you know, you could play 1 Pokeball because Lycia is just that good. And then you got Copycat, Mars, and the Researches. This deck is super solid, always has a good win rate, so expect to see this on the ladder as well. Another deck we're gonna go over is the Heatmore version of Mega Blazakin. This deck is insanely strong, just overall. You get the rare candy, you pop off. You stall with Heatmore until you get your rare candy, you pop off, stall for Copycat, and then just rejuvenate your hand. Lily's good to make Mega Blazakin live forever. Then you got Rocky Helmet, Flame Patches, and red cards for Disruption, and, you know, double Cyrus. You could play 1 Cyrus and then 1 Rocky Helmet, or double Cyrus. This person ended up doing 2 Cyrus and ended up working well for him, but just overall really strong deck. I wouldn't sleep on it. All right, so let's talk about Crobat EX. This deck right here in Pocket Mad's tournament, it came in 15th place, which ended up being 9-3, which is really good. And this deck overall just came out of nowhere. You know, Zubat and just taking over, poisoning everything, Crobat poisoning, Nihilego, you know, adding additional poison damage, or just finishing off any Oricorios. Then you got Mega Absol EX, and then, you know, double Copycat for the consistency, which kind of helps with these decks, these rare candy decks. And then you got Poison Barbs, you know, just always want to keep your opponent poisoned. Sabrina's really good because you could just, you know, force your opponent to swap, and then you could keep, you know, dealing poison damage. And 70, everything just adds up really fast, and then you could just send out Mega Absol to start swinging for 80 to like basically go for game, and then, you know, rip whatever cards they have in their hand. And then you have cards like X Speed for consistency, because there will be times you start with Nihilego and you're gonna need that to swap out, you know, without just wasting all of your energy dedication. But overall, the deck is pretty good, plays really well into the metagame. I wouldn't sleep on this. People will probably start playing this on the ladder because Crobat is definitely a fan favorite Pokemon, and yeah. Shout out to Hyperion for getting a top with this. The next deck I want to talk about is the Hydreon and Mega Absol. Just overall big powerhouse type of a deck, and the new addition is the regular Absol. So it has the ability, well, the attack leap over, where you could do 30 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So it's basically a Heatmore for dark Pokemon, and overall it's really strong. You're doing 30 damage and potentially, you know, just pushing all of those weak Swablus or Chinglings or anything that has 30 HP, putting pressure on that, putting pressure on opponents' Mega Pokemon or whatever they're gonna try to evolve. Like, say if, you know, the only Swablu or Torchic is their only way to evolving, you know, you could already have the early damage to that and have access to Cyrus to pull it out. You do have Rocky Helmet, red card, you know, Copycat for the consistency. Just overall, the deck is super solid and plays well into the metagame. So, you know, this deck over here is not scared of Oricorio and would definitely just, you know, push for victory. Decidui is going to be one of those decks that also sees a lot of play because it has the same win factor as Mega Blazakin. Is as soon as you get a Decidui successfully set up on the board, you kind of just win the game because you could target anything on the field, and having an early like 70 damage to anything on the bench is really crucial because this thing has 130 HP. It's going to be hard to take out, especially you have cards like Lily, Erica, you know, and Leaf Cape making it live forever. And not to mention, if you put it on Decidui EX, that thing's gonna have 200 HP and it's pretty much a tank. So, you know, what rank really comes down to is how many games could you play in and out really fast, and just overall this deck right here is super strong. There's not much to explain about it. You know, Copycat helps the consistency, and you got all of the healing, and then you got May for consistency. So, you know, you're gonna see many different variants of this deck in the metagame. Now, a very anti-meta deck that works really strong is the Magnazone Chingling with the Oricorio pair. Like, this deck right here is super anti-meta, plays well into almost all of the top decks. Just overall, it's one of the best decks out there. It's still a little bit inconsistent, but at the same time, you can't like disrespect this deck. If it sets up Magnazone, it's kind of over. But at the same time, you know, it could slow down everything with the Chingling play. It could also stall you with Oricorio while attacking with Ori, while you get the Magnazone set up, and especially just the simple fact that you can make Magnazone 160 HP is kind of crazy. So we got that going for this deck as well. The deck is amazing, and I wouldn't sleep on it. The last deck I want to talk about is Greninja EX and Suicune EX. So this deck right here overall is pretty strong, but let's just be real, Greninja is the real star in this deck. Suicune's just a draw engine at this point, and this Giratina could even get replaced because like there are versions that are not running Giratina, and you know, sometimes Giratina could hurt, but at the same time you still want that extra body on the field so Suicune could do a lot more damage. You know, Greninja's just pinging everything on the field. Greninja EX just has crazy HP, 170 HP with 100 damage, and you could just swap out your Suicune once you're done drawing all the cards you need. You got Iridas, Giant Capes, May for consistency for the Greninja line. Overall, the deck is super strong, and you know, it's worth playing. It has good matchups against everything in the metagame right now too. So this deck I would not sleep on. And basically, I want to conclude, this is what I would expect to see on Master Ball rank or on the ladder on your grind in Ultra Ball and just in rank in general, because everybody's gonna have access to a lot of these cards now. The game's been out for a while. And overall, like, comment, subscribe, and we shall see you next time. Peace.